Hello everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel for our Saturday craft day with Kraftgali. We are going to be playing with the same stamp set as last week, which is the Altenew stamp set. And this time though, we are going to be attempting at these flowers with one ink color. That's right, one color. Because sometimes layering stamps can be a little overwhelming in the sense that you need a little bit more supplies for them. So I am going to try out and do this with one ink pad. That's one ink pad per flower. So I use a few different colors. Now, this first one, I'm taking you on this mess up of a journey here because I wanted to show you what happens when you don't pay attention to instructions. So I started stamping out this flower here, and you're going to see that I started with the first stamp on a scratch piece of paper, and then that was second generation stamping because then I just took it right to my cardstock. Then I put the next layer, then the next layer, and the final layer here is going to be in black. So I wanted to see what that looked like, but the flower did not look right. So here I take out the package, and I'm like, oh, there's instructions on the back. That will help me a great deal. So I studied that for a little bit, and I realized in the placement of my flowers where they should be going and where they should be lined up. So I'm going to try it again. So here I take my Catherine Puller inks and watch how well this stamps the first image. It's incredible. These inks are incredible. So I'm going to stamp this off onto the paper, and I'm not going to use that scratch paper because I'm going to be doing second generation stamping. I want the lightest color I could get for my flower here. And so this is what is going to be stamped right onto my cardstock. I lift that up, and now I have a super light color. Now it's not perfect, but we are trying to make this work with one ink pad. And I'm going to show you a couple different ink pads that I use. Okay, so I get that done. Now I'm looking at my instructions off to the side here and how I should align my second piece. And so I'm going to get that all lined up. We're going to pick it up with our MISTI and then stamp it with one time stamping. So this is like the normal stamping. Ink it up and stamp it down. And here you're going to start to see that flower start to be built. Once that's finished, we're going to move on to the next stamp. So this is a 4-layer stamp set. Last week in the video, I was mistaken. I think I said it was a 3-layer, and I only used 3 layers. And you can tell in the flowers. They still came out pretty, but they didn't come out like this. So there, I stamped it once. Now I'm going to stamp it again, and you can start to see that dark piece come together. So we get that finished. The 4th layer is going to be this outline. Now I love the way that this is looking so far. I didn't know what this outline was going to look like, so I decided to go with black so I can kind of get a gauge on it. It's not bad. It's pretty, but it's not what I ended up using on my card. The center piece here, which is the little center part of the flower, it has 2 stamps, 2 layers. So I'm trying to do the same thing, generation stamping, so I can use just one ink color for that as well. The problem I had was, I don't know if the inks were too juicy, I don't know what the case was, but it just kind of covered the whole center. So I did go back in with a brown marker, a very fine line marker, and just draw in little flicks around the center later on, but I don't use that flower anyway. So we're going to move on to the very next flower. So I'm using this blue color here, still Catherine Puller. I'm going to second generation stamp. I'm going to then put my second layer on and stamp it with one ink layer. Then I'm going to put my 3rd layer on, and I'm going to stamp it up, or ink it up rather, about 2 or 3 times because I really want to get that darkened center. And so you can see as you're building up these dye inks, they work really well. So they're really kind of building upon each other, and you can start to see that flower comes together so pretty. And when you line it up correctly, it actually looks like a flower. So, lesson learned. All right, so I'm going to move on to an orange color now. So we're going to be using this color. Now when I chose the colors, I chose a medium color. So I didn't choose a very dark purple or a very dark blue. That's really up to you. Just experiment and have fun. I chose medium so that I can go lighter and I can go darker with it. That was the method to my madness. So you can see I'm doing that. Okay, so here I take a Distress Oxide color, and I'm going to stamp that out. And immediately I was like, nope, blotchy. So I knew the second generation stamping would be even worse. So I just skipped it. Moving on. Oxides, didn't work for me. But Versafine Clair, we're going to try without second generation stamp first. So Versafine Clair is a pigment ink, and so it stamps really well. It's very, like I said, pigmented. So we're going to see how this works out. Now, I did not do the second generation as you saw. I will in the future. But I wanted to see how it looked if I just kept building upon itself. And I noticed with the pigment inks versus the dye inks, the pigment inks sort of laid on top of each other a lot more and didn't darken as much as I had hoped, whereas the dye ink darkened the more and more I did it. And so I didn't get quite as drastic a result here from the green. And that's okay. I just kind of wanted to experiment here. Totally fine. In fact, I don't use the green one anyway. Okay, we're going to try it with the pink now. And now with this pink Versafine Clair, I am going to do some second generation stamping. So I'm taking out my scratch paper and I'm going to stamp that down first. And then we're going to go straight to the cardstock and we're going to see how this comes out. So here you can see you get a really, well, you didn't see it, I pulled it off the screen, but you get a really good stamp, that first image. And then second generation is really good as well. So I find it interesting how well the Catherine Polar inks stamp, given that they're not pigment. I think it's really quite incredible because pigment inks are kind of known for that, but she's done it. She's managed to make them water reactive and they blend well with ink brushes or blending tools. They stamp solid images awesome. So, yeah, I mean, I go on and on about the CP inks because I love them. But these Versafine Clair pigment inks are really great as well for a lot of techniques like heat embossing. So if you have a couple colors there and you just put clear embossing powder over it, you're going to get nice embossing with those because of the pigment property. So I'm just going to show you real quick. I did a leaf on the right side where I outlined it, and I realized that I just wasn't digging the outlining of these stamps that much. I liked the kind of, if you would, no line stamping, just because there's not that fine detailed line on the outside. Okay, so I'm going to pull out this Heidi Swap stencil, and I am going to then use my little magnet cutting pad thing here I picked this up at Tuesday morning on sale, and it's great because it holds my stencils in place, and I just don't have to worry about it shifting too much. I knew I wasn't going to go up above where the magnet was because I was going to do like a faded gradient look for my stencil card panel. And there we go. We have our final stencil done, and I just thought that yellow kind of added really nicely to the flowers that I chose. So I'm going to use the 3 flowers that I picked that did not have the outline. I fussy cut them out, and now I'm going to do my sentiment here. And my sentiment is going to be the heartfelt condolences again for this stamp set. I had mentioned last week that I needed a few more sympathy cards, and so I'm just going to keep these on stash. So I stamped that out with Versafine Clair Nocturne ink. And then I'm just going to hold my flowers where I think I want them and just use some art glitter glue right kind of peeking behind, just squeezing it in there to get that all good. And I just want this to become one solid piece. So that's why I'm going to be gluing them down in such a manner. And then when I get them glued down, I'm going to be able to pop them all together. You can do this by laying out your flowers the way that you want them and then using some press and seal to put over and then pick them all up at the same time. This way you can glue them all together. Either way. I think press and seal was out of reach. That's why I didn't use it. Laziness kicking in. Okay, so then I'm going to pop those up on some foam tape and lay this down onto my card panel. So once that's finished, I'm going to do a couple things here on this card just to jazz it up a little bit because I just think it needs a little something. And so I'm going to start with making a gold glitter card background. And I do that by cutting a mat that's slightly larger than the panel I have, but I'm going to cut this rectangle out of the center so I can keep that centerpiece for a future project. Once I get that done, I'm going to use, at first, art glitter glue to put the panel onto the glitter cardstock. Now, I'm sure if I held it down with something heavy, it probably would stick just fine. But when I picked this up, it came off so very easily that it concerned me. Right here, you'll see it come off. And so I thought, well, I think that I'm going to go for some 1/8 inch score tape instead. And that just gave me a lot more surety that it was going to stay put. So I get that down, And I'm just going to mat that little peeking of glitter cardstock, the gold, right around the back. And now I'm going to take my art glitter glue and put that on my card panel. So there's a couple things for this card. One more big thing that I'm going to add to it. And it is the subtlety of stickles, the gold stickles. So you've probably seen me do this in the past, but I'm just going to add some little lines of gold, and it's really, really sparkly stickles around. So the center of the flowers, and then I thought, let's get a little squirrely here, folks. I'm going to put some stickles on the fat parts of the letters. So I just put one little line of stickles on all the thick parts of those letters. And I just loved the way that came out. And that is going to finish up this card. So if you ever wondered, is it possible to use multi-layered stamping with just one ink color? I think that the answer would be yes. It's not going to be the same exact look, but it is definitely an alternative way to try to save some money and still get to have a good time with some of these techniques, because we can't all have all the things. And so try it and experiment and have fun. Thank you so much for stopping by. Don't forget to head over to the shop and check out what's in store. I'll link here some more videos you might be interested in, and we'll see you in the comment section down below. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.